Part 66. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 651. Outside the tower. Feng Qinjiang's face was glowing with green light, and he couldn't believe it when he looked at Xianxia, who had already reached the nascent soul stage in front of him. Before, he felt that he could take the initiative between the two. But I never thought about it. Just after meeting Xianxia in the tower. Although he didn't see it with his own eyes, he knew exactly what Xianxia did to Xianxia. But if Feng Qingyang knew that Xianxia and Xianxia were siblings, his worldview would probably collapse. Fortunately, Xianxia did not get carried away because of the increase in strength. After all, Xianxia will be crippled in this nascent soul stage, so what if she also meets the murderer? Therefore, Feng Qingyang still had a considerable effect on him. To be more specific, Xianxia still needs to use the function of the shuttle. Qingyang, what's your expression? Xianxia turned to look at Feng Qingyang and said expressionlessly. Feng Qingyang is not stupid. He knows very well that if he brings this matter out, it will be equivalent to tearing his face. It would obviously be safer if you pretended to know nothing. Yingxia, I think this tower is a little too weird. How about we leave first? What if the monk? Feng Qingyang randomly found an excuse and tried to get away with it. Unexpectedly, this wakes up Xianxia. You're right. She thought of Xianxia's fate. Although I am still in the early stage of nascent soul, who can guarantee that I will be safe and sound? Then let's leave quickly. Xianxia took the initiative to hold Feng Qinjiang's hand. Feng Qingyang felt disgusted in his heart, but he had no choice but to show any dissatisfaction. After launching the flying boat, the two of them returned along the original path. The Book of Heaven has been born, and since Xianxia has reached nascent soul, he may be able to obtain the Book of Heaven. In order to become stronger in cultivation, Feng Qingyang felt that he had to endure the humiliation and bear the burden. At this time, Zhu Yun was also running wildly. It's not that he doesn't want to kill Zhu Feng, but when Zhu Feng is controlled by the demon refining tower, it means that he has to face a completely unknown enemy. The upper limit of this enemy's strength is even more unfathomable. He never does anything he's not sure about. At the same time, he also knew better that if Zhu Feng's body was taken away, perhaps from another aspect, Zhu Feng would also be dead. Perhaps in a short period of time, he would lose one enemy. As for the demon refining tower, he didn't think much of it. Right now, it's still important to seize the heavenly book first. At that time, he saw with his own eyes that almost all the alchemy monks were rushing towards that direction. He planned to go there and take a look first. Originally, he wanted to release Lian Nishang and Mengwei. But when I think about the various dangers I am about to face, if I take two people with me, I am afraid it will be very inconvenient. Lian Nishang has not experienced much in the world, and Mengwei has just entered the late stage of Danja, and has no means. In this case, it will be more convenient to move alone. Moreover, Zhu Yun can completely return to Yunzhou as long as the heavenly book secret realm is over. He can guarantee the safety of these two people anywhere in the Yao realm. With such a plan, it took Zhu Yun several hours to arrive more than 100 miles away from the light pillar. At this distance, the 5 colors in the light beam can be seen more clearly. The heavenly book, what kind of existence is it? If it is said by those ancestors of Yuanying that if you get the heavenly book, you will be able to practice and ascend, then at least this heavenly book was put down by the immortals. Zhu Yun found a corner, hid, and began to secretly meditate on the unreasonableness of this. It is also impossible to enter the nascent soul stage, otherwise those nascent souls will definitely break their heads and fight for it. But despite this, they can only use their own unique tricks to snatch it through their disciples. There are many geniuses in the Peepa realm. Only Pei Wei and Leng Rushuan, who are at the peak of the late stage of pill formation, almost made me suffer a big loss. I don't know if there are other people from the section. However, as long as I don't reveal my need for the heavenly book, the purpose is that no one will waste their energy attacking me. After a while, Zuyun figured out something. This time, many monks entered the secret realm of the Book of Heaven accidentally. Zuyun felt that he could fish in troubled waters. However, he still needs a makeover. After all, many people had seen his true face at that time. The talisman of changing heaven and earth had been used up, so Zuyun changed it for another one. This time, he chose to look like a big dog. I don't think anyone would know him in the Peeper realm. Just as he was preparing all this, two figures stood side by side in the sky, whizzing past. He looked up and his pupils shrank. They are clearly Xianxia and Feng Qingyang. As for Xianxia, her aura was completely different, she had clearly reached the nascent soul stage. How is this possible? How did she reach the nascent soul stage? Zuyun simply couldn't imagine it, and at the same time he was glad that he had changed his appearance. Otherwise, if you use the bell to welcome Xia, the city will probably do something to you. If it was just her, Zuyun wouldn't be too worried. But if Feng Qingyang is by the side, who knows what will happen? The relationship between him and Feng Qingyang is not even a friend. At most, it was just a relationship of mutual use. The last thing I didn't expect was that the two of them had reached some kind of consensus and actually came together. By the way, how did he take away the shuttle before? Zuyun also started to move, but he did not fly directly over, but chose to use the Changshengju. He ran wildly while thinking about the secret. Originally, the shuttle was considered his magic weapon, but it was suddenly taken back. At that time, he was chasing Zhu Feng, but he didn't think much about it. Now thinking carefully, he guessed that it must be related to the single wind spiritual root. It seems that I also need to understand how to transform the wind spiritual power. If I can find the key, I believe that the wind spiritual power I condense will be stronger than Feng Qingyang. Thinking about it, but how to do it, Zuyun didn't know. Thunder spiritual power is a mixture of gold spiritual power and fire spiritual power. Ice spiritual power and water spiritual power come from the same source, and can be slightly changed. But wind spiritual power is colorless, tasteless, and invisible. What spiritual power to transform? While Zuyun was thinking hard, he had already run nearly 100 miles. Seeing the huge pillar of light rising into the sky, Zuyun couldn't see the top even if he looked up. And this was more than 10 miles away from the center of the pillar of light. But he could already see that there was a dark mass of cultivators around the pillar of light. It seems that they have not been able to get the heavenly book yet. Do they have to wait for the pillar of light to dissipate before the heavenly book will be revealed? As soon as this thought came up, Zuyun immediately denied it. The heavenly book secret realm has existed for a long time, but no one has ever obtained the heavenly book. What does this show? This shows that the heavenly book is not so easy to get. Is it related to the realm? No, not necessarily. According to Feng and he, only certain people can practice the heavenly book. In other words, the heavenly book also recognizes people. Therefore, to find the heavenly book, you need a destined person to get it. And obviously, no one can get the heavenly book at this time. Only when the heavenly book is taken out, these people will start to rob it, right? After thinking through the key, Zuyun was no longer anxious. He did not approach, nor even take a second look, but sat down cross-legged, continuing to comprehend how to transform the wind spirit power. Time flies. The light column did not change much. Except for the five-colored light slowly turning, there was no movement at all. And more cultivators came here. Whether they were cultivators from large sects or ordinary cultivators who accidentally entered. With more people, there were more disputes. Soon, A conflict broke out in a corner of the crowd. Two cultivators in the foundation building stage fought for no reason. This chaos was like a fuse, igniting the resentment. They remembered that they could kill at will in the secret realm of the heavenly book. Then revenge was taken, and grievances were taken. Some more sober cultivators chose to stay away, most of whom were cultivators from large sects at the peak of the late Jindan stage. Among them were Xianxia and Feng Qingyang. As for the others, they directly fought into a mess. In this way, almost all the cultivators below the Jindan stage were affected. During the fight at the Jindan stage, if there was a little spiritual energy overflow, it would be enough to crush an ordinary foundation building cultivator to pieces. As for the Qi refining stage, they would die without leaving even a dust. Seeing this scene, Zuyun couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Until, a streak of black flew straight from behind him, passed over his head, and landed heavily beside the light column. The demon refining tower. Zuyun stood up suddenly. The bronze door of the demon refining tower suddenly opened, sucking in all the cultivators near the light column. Is Zhu Feng okay? Zuyun took a deep breath, his face full of shock. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 652. Zuyun knew that the magic power practiced by Zhu Feng could swallow the vitality and longevity of other living beings, thereby transforming it into his magic power. At this moment, the scene happening in front of me was obviously done by Zhu Feng. This also means that he is fine at all. But of all the monks present, except for him, only Xianxia and Feng Qingyang knew what a terrifying magic weapon this was. Let's step back and take a look first. Xianxia also looked solemn and said to Feng Qingyang. Good. Feng Qingyang's flying shuttle also retreated 10 miles away. On the other hand, those monks thought that the demon refining tower that suddenly appeared next to the light pillar might be related to the Book of Heaven. In this way, they waited until all the monks were sucked into the demon refining tower, and then cautiously approached. At this time, all the monks in the demon refining tower did not know that their death was coming. After entering the tower, they lived in various places on the first floor of the demon refining tower. Zhu Feng also moved. He didn't hide it at all, running his magic power, and didn't even look for anyone through the black ball on the altar of the demon refining tower. There are thousands of people sucked in. Excluding those pill-forming stages, there are at least 800. These monks didn't need him to expend any spiritual power at all. Zuyun came to the first floor and slaughtered all the way there. Whenever he meets a monk, he will immediately use his magic power to devour the opponent's vitality. Soon, the magic elixir in his body began to be filled with magic power. And when all these minor cultivators die, it will be the turn of those who form the pill stage. Unfortunately, Zhu Feng didn't know that those disciples of the sect that he had deliberately not inhaled had broken into the demon refining tower on their own. At this time, it was dark in Huaydan Valley. Most nascent soul stagers have already prepared to return to the sect. But the other half stayed where they were, closing their eyes to rest, or sharing their cultivation experiences with each other. On the cliff, there is only so much light that cannot illuminate the entire valley. Fortunately, it will not have much impact on these nascent soul ancestors who have reached the top of the mortal world. But no one can think of it. Suddenly, the brilliance began to bloom one after another. Everyone looked with surprise in their eyes. Feng and he was even more delighted. These nascent souls are all thoughtful. There was a long gap between glory before. But at this time, the speed suddenly increased, and it was obvious that something strange had happened. But in Huaydan Valley, there is not even a trace of spiritual power fluctuation, so what went wrong? Everyone's eyes immediately turned to Feng and he. Why are you looking at me like this? Feeling countless sharp eyes, Feng and he couldn't help but feel his heart skip a beat. But he still pretended to be calm and asked. Master Feng, we all have doubts. Why do these flowers suddenly light up? As the leader of this joint operation, the pavilion master naturally spoke first. Feng Angzhen felt his heart beating wildly. He suppressed his panic and said quickly, maybe the flowering season has arrived. Blooming period. Shen Gongji sneered, Feng Anhe, if you want to lie to others, why don't you find a better reason? What did I lie to you about? Feng Anhe calmly said, what's the benefit of lying to you? Will it give me more spiritual stones, or will it improve my realm? Everyone can guess what Feng Anhe Dingran knows, but there is no evidence. Huaydan Valley used to be as bright as day, but no one paid much attention. They didn't even notice when it fell into darkness at night. But at this time, flowers bloomed on the cliff again, and at such a speed that they would not believe it. In particular, something unexpected happened in the secret realm of the Book of Heaven this time. For example, all the monks who don't have entrance beads can enter it. Feng Anhe, at the most minor level, this matter is your Huaydangu's business, and we are not qualified to take care of it. But at the most serious level, there are demonic cultivators mixed in at this time, and this is related to our entire Peeper realm's righteous cultivators. At this time, Mu Si suddenly spoke up. These words directly pushed Feng Anhe to the highest point of morality. If any disaster happens in the Peeper realm in the future, I'm afraid Feng Anhe will be involved. Beauty, you don't believe me either. Feng Anhe turned around and looked with some surprise. It's not that I don't believe you, including all my colleagues now, I don't doubt you. It's just that we feel that when it comes to the rise and fall of the Peeper realm, we should share the same moral principles. Mu Si's words made everyone nod their heads. But they did not agree with Mu Si's words. Rather, he thought that Mu Si's words could force Feng Anhe to find out what he knew. Huaydan Valley maybe. It's related to the secret realm of the Book of Heaven. This is the question on everyone's mind at this time. Feng An and Ning Shen glanced at everyone present, then took a deep breath, and then said, well, actually, it doesn't matter if I tell you. The secret realm of the heavenly book is indeed related to Huaydan Valley. It's just, it doesn't have much to do with it. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. In this way, maybe we can directly obtain the Book of Heaven through Feng Anhe? For a moment, the greedy gaze even overshadowed the brilliance on the cliff. They automatically ignored Feng Anhe's last sentence. This flower has existed longer than my Feng family and the sword refining sect. I only know that all the cultivators who died in the heavenly book secret realm will eventually nourish these flowers. Previously, my Huaydan Valley suffered a drastic change, and all the flowers died, so it fell into darkness. But now that the heavenly book secret realm is open, as long as someone has died in it, these flowers will naturally grow again. Master Feng, there was an accident in the heavenly book secret realm, and you can enter it without the entrance bead. Could it be, this is the work of the secret realm? The pavilion master looked deeper, and combined with the accident that occurred this time, he immediately asked. This made Feng Anhe stunned, he really hadn't thought about this question. But if Feng Anhe's words are true, then it is not difficult for these nascent souls to think in this direction. The flowers are ruined, and they need dead people to bloom again. Naturally, the more people, the better. So this time, you can enter the heavenly book secret realm without the entrance bead. If you say it doesn't matter, they won't believe it even if you kill them. It's just that there is no definite evidence now. However, in the minds of these Yuanying ancestors, there are many things that do not require evidence at all. Feng Anhe also knew this, but he still shook his head truthfully, I don't know. Alas. The pavilion master sighed, looked at the sky and murmured, it's a troubled time. Everyone was confused. Shen Gongji asked, Pavilion master, I don't know what you want to say. The pavilion master retracted his gaze and said, 100 years ago, you slaughtered the Lin family, causing my fellow deists to no longer be able to go to the spirit world. Look at what has happened in our people realm in the past 100 years. Back then, I was always investigating the matter of the Yukoi demon sect, and I was too busy to stop you. Now, it's time for us to suffer the consequences. The Yuanying were silent, but more of them did not agree in their hearts. It's called an investigation, but the Beast Pet Pavilion captured monsters and forced them to transform. Isn't it your Beast Pet Pavilion? Is it necessary to have this method to investigate the leader of the demon sect? Forget it, I think we should stop here with this secret realm of the heavenly book. No one has obtained the heavenly book for thousands of years. Why do you think someone can get it this time? In my opinion, please return to your respective sects and clear out the evil scoundrels in your respective territories. How about meeting up at the Fire Dragon sect in a month? Zhong Jingguo immediately said, does the pavilion master want to attack the Yasha realm in advance? That's right, the pavilion master's turbid eyes became bright, and he said, only by eradicating all the evil cultivators can we live up to our ancestors and not ignore the sect after leaving. In addition, there is one thing I think I still need to make clear to you. What is it? Everyone said in unison. There is a spiritual world passage in the Peepa realm, I wonder if there is one in the Yasha realm and the Dongsheng realm. This made everyone look at each other in surprise. Yes, are there any in the other two realms? The three realms almost never come and go. Indeed, there are also ordinary righteous cultivators in the other two realms. But compared to the Peepa realm, the lives of the cultivators in those two realms are extremely miserable. This is not important. What is important is that if the Demon King breaks through again, he will face the heavenly tribulation. After overcoming the heavenly tribulation, he will be no different from the human cultivators and directly reach the God transformation stage. So, how did they get to the spiritual world? Similarly, the demon cultivators are the same. The spiritual world passage in the Peepa realm is not guarded by the people of the Lin family, but without their guidance, ordinary cultivators will never be able to pass through it. This point was deeply experienced by most of the cultivators here decades ago. They also lost many seniors because of this. The words of the pavilion master seemed to open the door to a new world for them. What if they could go directly through the spiritual world passage from the Yasha realm? For a moment, everyone's eyes were filled with fanaticism, and they couldn't wait to kill into the Yasha realm now. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 653. In the Demon Refining Tower, every time Zhu Feng absorbs the vitality of a monk, his strength will be restored a little more. He has practiced this magic skill to perfection. Swallowing vitality can either help him practice, or help him heal or recover. Compared with any other method of righteousness, it is even worse. He didn't know that without the help of the tower spirit, it would be impossible for him to break through to this level. Although spiritual power is a product of heaven and earth, there are hundreds of different kinds of people. Without the tower spirit, Zhu Feng would definitely not be able to withstand the rejection among countless differences. For Taling, the stronger the wind is, the better it is for him. However, all of this is done by the tower spirit's instinct. The restrictions of the lower realms of heaven cannot allow him to do whatever he wants. In other words, Zhu Feng is actually his chess piece. As Zhu Feng devoured more and more, his strength recovered faster and faster. Hundreds of people later, he was back to his best. Then the next step is to devour those pill-forming stages. Anyway, the 9th generation magic power was destroyed by Zhu Yun, so I might as well just practice my own magic power with peace of mind, and then seize the heavenly book. Zhu Feng's eyes flashed with light. At this time, he no longer had any scruples, but returned to the entrance to the tower. He believed that those pill-forming monks would find this place one by one, and he just had to wait and see. Outside the tower, suddenly only 3 people were left. I wish the clouds a warm welcome to summer and a clear breeze. Even though Zuyun was hiding 10 miles away and far away from the other 2 people, he was still discovered. It's just too conspicuous. Boy, why don't you go treasure hunting? Xianxia stood proudly in the air and spoke condescendingly to Zuyun. She couldn't recognize Zuyun Lei. Senior, this junior is weak and dare not go in. Zuyun said with a smile. You are self-aware. Xianxia glanced at him, then took out a pill from his arms and threw it over, saying, I will reward you with a pill. Go and take a look inside the light pillar. Zuyun pointed at himself in surprise. Apparently Xianxia wanted him to try the Book of Heaven. If it's not you, could it be me? Have you seen it? What kind of elixir is this? How could Zuyun not know that this is the fire dragon pill? Xianxia is willing to spend money, but there was no one around at this time, so it was not a bad idea to get close to the light pillar. The reason why Zuyun didn't get close before was to stay away from right and wrong. Since there is no one around at this time, it might as well go and take a look. No wonder, I can also get the Book of Heaven, and then I won't need to hide anymore, I can just run away. Zuyun believed that he had such strength. In terms of desperate efforts, he couldn't guarantee that he would be able to escape unscathed. But Zuyun was still very confident in escaping from the joint efforts of these 2 people. Even Yao Wuxi and others who were at the peak of the late nascent soul could escape to death, let alone Xianxia who had just entered the nascent soul. What's more, as long as there is no threat from the demon refining tower, Zuyun still has the ancestral tree to use. As for the 2 demon kings, Zuyun decided to let them recover. He had not fully recovered, but he was called out to help several times. After making a decision in his heart, Zuyun walked towards the light pillar. But before he took a few steps, Xianxia called out to him. Hey, wait a minute, I'll have someone take you there. Zuyun was stunned for a moment, stopped, and saw Xianxia turning to Feng Qingyang and shouting, Qingyang, send him over. This foundation building period is too slow. Feng Qingyang didn't speak, but nodded. Zuyun, who observed the scene at close range, became more active again. When he had just finished drawing the heaven-changing talisman, these 2 people passed above his head. They were far away at the time, and Zuyun still felt that the relationship between the 2 people was somewhat close. But at this moment, these slightly unfamiliar words seemed like things were not as simple as he thought. What happened? Look at Feng Qingyang again, letting others take orders, and even there is a hint of unwillingness in his eyes. Zuyun secretly kept an eye on it, and Feng Qingyang used the shuttle to land in front of Zuyun. He stretched out his hand and brought Zuyun onto the shuttle. But it doesn't take much time for the shuttle to travel over a distance of more than 10 miles. Soon, Zuyun was standing between the light pillars. The light beam was very thick, like an Optimus Prime supporting the entire secret realm of the Book of Heaven. But the turning of Guanghua made a familiar scene suddenly appear in Zuyun's mind. It looks very much like the 5-color wheel in his dungeon during his qi refining period. Boy, go in and try. At this time, Feng Qinjiang's voice brought Zuyun's thoughts back. Zuyun pretended to be a little scared and said, Senior, will something happen? I don't want to die yet. If you don't want to die, go in. You may not die if you go in, but if you don't go in, you will definitely die. Feng Qingyang said extremely coldly. That. No need to say more, as long as we can save you, we will definitely help. Feng Qingyang directly blocked Zuyun's next words. Zuyun was not afraid, he was just testing Feng Qingyang or Xianxia's attitude. It seems that they really want to get the Book of Heaven. But if the Book of Heaven goes into my pocket, will it still be yours? Zuyun felt calm in his heart, and he stretched out his hand to touch the light pillar. The beam of light seemed to be nothing, and Zuyun's hand penetrated it instantly. Huh! Feng Qingyang and Xianxia exchanged pleasantries, but an accident happened. In the beam of light, something seemed to be holding Zuyun's hand, pulling him directly in. In the blink of an eye, Zuyun disappeared into the beam of light. This made the two of them unable to react at all. What's going on? Xianxia landed and asked Feng Qingyang with an extremely ugly face. I don't know, I just let him in, but I didn't expect him to be sucked in all of a sudden. Feng Qingyang said anxiously, he was afraid that Xianxia would misunderstand that it was him. Huh, Xianxia gave Feng Qingyang a cold look and said, go in and take a look. Feng Qingyang pointed at his nose. Not to mention Feng Qingyang, not even Xianxia dared to enter such a completely incomprehensible place. But obviously, he could tell Zuyun the words he had given him before. In those cold eyes, he saw the murderous intent that had not yet been revealed. Okay, I'll be quiet for a moment and go in immediately. Feng Qingyang took a deep breath, and after a few breaths, he imitated Zuyun and stretched out his hand towards the light beam. Likewise, his hand was also submerged in the beam of light. But strangely, there is no suction. It feels like entering the formation. Huh. Xianxia frowned, then she took a step forward, stretched out her palm and slapped Feng Qingyang on the back. Bang! Julie directly shot Feng Qingyang into the beam of light. Can we go in now? Xianxia murmured a few times, waited for a moment, and Bulletin Feng Qingyang came out, thinking, could it be that only the first person in would be unusual? If you can get the heavenly book this way, don't let that kid get the advantage in vain. Xianxia's heart skipped a beat, and she actually stepped directly into the beam of light. At this time, Zuyun was dumbfounded. Within the pillar of light, there is a different world. But apart from the constantly changing five-color brilliance, there is nothing strange about this world. What surprised Zuyun was, he was sucked straight to one place by the suction force. He couldn't tell the direction and was a little panicked. But he didn't stop until the force pulling him suddenly disappeared. Then, he saw a ball of five-color brilliance flowing under his feet. Through this brilliance, he could vaguely see what looked like an ancient book looming in it. There is no doubt that this is the Book of Heaven. So, I am the destined person of this book. Zuyun was a little in disbelief. Where do you have a destiny? He already knows that there is no relationship between the secret realm of the heavenly book and the immortal mansion. But why, after this beam of light sucked him in, brought him all the way to the heavenly book? Is it possible that for thousands of years, they have all been separated by fate? Why choose me? Zuyun didn't know why. But he didn't seem to have any sense of crisis here. You're here, why don't you take it up and take a look? Confused in his heart, Zuyun squatted down. He put his hand into the smooth mass and took hold of the ancient book. No vision occurred, and he took out the ancient book easily. When he saw the 5 big characters that suddenly appeared on the cover of the book, he was dumbfounded. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 654. No matter how Zuyun thought about it, he couldn't believe that this so-called heavenly book was actually the 5 Elements Chaos Sutra. After a while, he came back to his senses from the shock and opened the first page without hesitation. The 5 Elements Chaos Sutra? The heaven and the earth have spirits, and people have 5 elements. They are nurtured in different time periods to create all things. The 5 elements gather together, and the great way is nothing. Gold is from profit, wood is from life, earth is from thickness, water is from moisture, and fire is from flame. People often say that the 5 spiritual roots are mixed spiritual roots. Yes, there are 5 elements in the sky, 5 elements on the earth, and 5 elements in people. The 5 elements are mutually generated and restrained, and complement each other. Cultivating immortals is against the will of heaven, but the 5 spiritual roots are secretly in line with the way of heaven. If you absorb the 5 kinds of spiritual power separately and store them in the dantian, forming a balanced trend and then feeding back to the 5 elements' spiritual roots, you can seize the creation of heaven and earth and break the sun, moon, and stars. Zuyun read page by page until he could no longer see the words. Before that, everything was exactly the same as his 5 elements Chaos Sutra. Could it be that there is more than one copy of this 5 elements Chaos Sutra? Back then, Sun Suanhua used a teasing tone to call it a wordless heavenly book. Who would have thought that in the Peepa realm, this was still a real heavenly book? Putting these past events behind him, Zuyun began to recall some of the things Feng and he had said to him. Heavenly books can only be obtained by people with a predestined relationship and practice. So, are the so-called predestined people actually people with 5 elements spiritual roots? Thinking of this, Zuyun suddenly understood everything. Indeed, according to what is said in this technique, if you practice step by step, you can indeed practice all the way to the final tribulation period. If you pass the heavenly tribulation again, you can ascend to become an immortal. 5 Elements Chaos Sutra is indeed worthy of the name of a heavenly book. But, back to the original question. Since there is a second copy of this 5 Elements Chaos Sutra, is there a third and fourth copy? In the mortal world, it is considered a heavenly book, so in the spiritual world, are there more? When this question appeared in Zuyun's mind uncontrollably, he smelled a hint of conspiracy. 5 spiritual roots, at least from his experience, he knew that they were the most despised existence by all cultivators. Even in Yunzhou, 5 spiritual roots can only enter ordinary sects as a chores at most. In the next level of Yezhu and Chuzhu, although there will not be too deliberate entanglement about the number of spiritual roots, it does not mean that 5 spiritual roots will be treated preferentially. That is just because 5 spiritual roots are recognized as waste, and no one will believe that 5 spiritual roots can be cultivated to that level. In other words, 5 spiritual roots are a group that is ignored. So, the person who created this technique. Zuyun suddenly seemed to remember something, and suddenly turned to the third page of 5 Elements Chaos Sutra again. The 5 Elements Chaos Sutra is a mysterious technique written by this immortal, aiming to allow all people with 5 spiritual roots in the mortal world to embark on the immortal path. His eyes quickly fell on the 2 words this immortal. Immortals technique, yes, this is the Immortals technique. Zuyun breathed quickly. A long time ago, he had indeed seen the words Bengzian and thought that it was the self-proclaimed title of a great senior. For example, mortals call cultivators immortals. At that time, Zuyun's realm was still very low and he didn't think much about it. But now it seems that he is completely sure that the 2 words Bengzian are clearly the self-proclaimed title of the immortal. There is no doubt. So, would the Immortals technique be so worthless? Putting aside this question, even if the technique is worthless, would the immortal have the intention to benefit ordinary people in the mortal world? This is absolutely impossible. All along the way, Zuyun has seen the coldness and selfishness of human nature. Anyone can use it. Everything is about interests first. So, a cultivator with 5 spiritual roots embarks on the immortal path and can definitely practice the technique to ascend to heaven. What good is it for this immortal? Obviously, things are not that simple. He even speculated that after ascending, that was the beginning of the conspiracy. It seems that the fairyland is not a fairyland. Zuyun took a deep breath and threw away the distracting thoughts in his mind. Now he is not even qualified to go to the spirit world, so talking about the fairyland is a bit far-fetched. In addition, whether there is any accident in his practice of the 5 Elements Chaos Sutra is not known yet. He looked inside his lower abdomen again. The embryo of the chaos seed is becoming more mature. Maybe when his realm reaches a higher level, it will break out of the seed. Just when he was a little worried, a strong wind suddenly hit. Zhu Yun felt that his hand was empty, and the 5 elements Chaos Sutra had disappeared. Turning his head, he saw Feng Qingyang driving the shuttle and running all the way. And a little further away, Xianxia was waiting for him. Zhu Yun narrowed his eyes and decided to let him go. After knowing that the heavenly book was the 5 elements Chaos Sutra, he immediately lost interest. At the same time, he could also think that even if he took the 5 elements Chaos Sutra back to Tang Liwen and let her pass it on to the so-called master, the other party might not believe that this was the heavenly book. Alas! Zhu Yun sighed slightly and turned away. Xianxia is in the nascent soul stage, so she should stay as far away from them as possible. It's just right, just find a place by yourself to solve the problem of Menghui and Lian Nishang. In addition, if you can meet Zhu Feng, you can try to see if you can kill him. Zhu Yun just took 2 steps, but the ground shook violently. Before he could come to his senses, Zhu Yun had already seen a huge 5-colored light column appear in front of him. Is this, coming out? He was slightly startled, but saw that the 5 colors on the light column began to rotate crazily. The speed became faster and faster, until the 5 colors melted into gray and white, exactly the same as the power of chaos, and then they suddenly dissipated and merged into the world. If the Book of Heaven is taken, does that mean that the secret realm will end prematurely? As soon as this idea came up, Zhu Yun suddenly felt his eyes flashing. When he showed up again, it was already a strange place. The ancient trees are so tall that you can't even see the sky when you raise your head. Underfoot, there are thick layers of dead leaves that have accumulated for who knows how many years. Feeling the intensity of the spiritual power in the world, Zhu Yun immediately realized that he was definitely not in the Peepa realm. Where is this? Zhu Yun couldn't help but cheer up, diffuse his spiritual consciousness, and pay careful attention to his surroundings. Suddenly, a figure as big as a mouse suddenly jumped out from under his feet. It was so fast that even Zhu Yun didn't see it clearly, and it had already disappeared into the deep forest. Is there a monster? 100,000 mountains. Zhu Yun frowned slightly and realized something was wrong. Not only does it have demonic power, but also some demonic spiritual power. If it's not the 100,000 mountains, where would it be? Zhu Yun was puzzled, but the surroundings were still quiet. Forget it, let's settle down now that we've come. I don't know what's going on with Huayden Valley. I think the secret realm of the heavenly book will end and we will be transported out. After Zhu Yun thought for a moment, he floated up. He planned to emerge from the tree crown, identify the direction, and then move in the same direction. But just a few feet into the air, he found that his body seemed to be restricted and he could no longer fly upwards. In desperation, he had no choice but to fall to the ground again, stepping on the dead leaves, making a rustling sound, and left in the opposite direction where the monster escaped just now. Zhu Yun had no intention of releasing Menghui and Lian Nishang before he could not completely determine where they were. After walking for about an hour, the light that was not very bright suddenly turned completely dark. It was as if Zhu Yun suddenly used a large amount of thunder-gathering talisman to summon countless thunderclouds. He subconsciously looked up and revealed the gap in the tree crown, but still couldn't see anything. It's really a baffling place. After muttering something in his mouth, Zhu Yun was about to move forward when 2 footsteps came from the distance. The same thing is stepping on dead leaves, making a rustling sound. Is there someone? Or a monster? Zhu Yun's pupils shrank and he restrained his breath. Then with a thought, he used the wood escape technique and merged himself into an ancient tree. As the footsteps approached, there were also sounds of conversation. It's human. 2 figures followed. A man and a woman, both wearing black robes. The demon moon has risen into the sky. We can't leave anymore. This tree happens to be nice, so why not rest here for the night? The female cultivator said softly. Don't rest any longer. You also know the news about the Peeper realm. They seem to have gathered all the nascent soul cultivators to attack our Yusha realm. The male cultivator's words shocked Zuyun beyond measure. Whether it is the Yusha realm he is in at this time, or all the monks in the Peeper realm are united to attack this place. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 655. What happened and why have I never heard about it? Zuyun couldn't help but ponder, and didn't listen to a word of the conversation between the two monks. After coming out of the Fire Dragon sect, he went to Huaden Valley and at most spent some time in Beiwa City. According to what these two people said, they are all the monks in the Peeper realm. Wouldn't it mean that Feng and he was also involved? But during those few months, he was clearly in Huatang Valley and never saw Feng and he leave. In this way, we only know what happened after they entered the secret realm of the Book of Heaven. Wait a minute, there are rumors that all the demon cultivators in Yusha realm are, could it be related to Zhu Feng? Zuyun couldn't help but tremble when he thought of this. He fought in the northwest of Fire Dragon sect, who would have thought that he would meet again in the secret realm of the Heavenly Book? And the northwest is bordering Yushu. But how does Zhu Feng relate to the Yusha realm? If it were someone else, they definitely didn't know Zhu Feng's identity and would inevitably guess that he went to Yusha realm. But Zuyun knew the life of his half-brother very well. From being immortal, it can be said that there are constant adventures along the way. Relying on the immortal palace space in the Dao Glass Mirror and the Five Elements Chaos Sutra, it can be said that I have practiced for decades more than him, but I can't easily defeat him. It seems that I don't know enough. Zuyun suddenly came back to his senses, only to see that the two monks had already walked away. Obviously, the male cultivator convinced the female cultivator, which shows that this matter is very urgent. Zuyun thought for a moment and then decided to follow him and have a look. Even if he now knows that he is in the Yusha realm, he can just go back all the way to the southeast. But if that news comes true, he will definitely encounter those in the nascent soul stage on his way back. Zuyun naturally didn't want to take risks. It is said that if you know yourself and the enemy, you will be victorious in every battle. Zuyun doesn't want to go through any battle at this time, but if he understands the Yusha realm, maybe he can go back safely. Using the wood escape technique, he kept dodging among some ancient trees, and soon saw the two figures. Their speed is not fast, and they carefully observe their surroundings every step they take. Just when Zuyun was no more than 100 steps closer to them, the male cultivator suddenly stopped. What's wrong? The female cultivator asked in a low voice. She was so shocked that Zuyun did not dare to move. Could it be that the secret passage had been discovered? The male cultivator said, I always feel like someone is following me. As soon as these words came out, Zuyun was shocked again. He concentrated and calmed down, and then he felt two demonic energies from the two monks. Demon cultivator. Zuyun suddenly realized that the demon cultivators had many strange magical powers that were beyond the comprehension of their ordinary cultivators. It is really possible to find Zuyun hiding in this ancient tree. When the wood escape technique escapes into the tree, the breath is completely integrated with the tree and will not be noticed by others. But in the process of escaping to another tree, spiritual power will be revealed. It's no surprise that this was discovered. Zuyun decided to stand still for the time being and looked at the two men quietly. The two men searched around but found nothing. Could it be that the demon moon is in the sky, making us mentally unstable? Perhaps, the male cultivator pondered slightly, and then said, let's hurry up. In this demon moon forest, no one knows which one will come first, the accident or the sunrise. After another hour of walking, we will almost be able to walk out. The magic moon? Zuyun heard these two words again and couldn't help but look up to the sky. Before, when he heard it, he didn't think much about it. But at this time, Due to the wood escape technique, he was completely integrated with the ancient tree. Just by thinking together, his spiritual consciousness shot straight to the top through the trunk of the tree. Through the canopy of the trees, he saw a scarlet full moon. The dark red light fell on the tree crown, revealing a strange and chilling atmosphere. Even Zuyun was shocked, and an inexplicable palpitation suddenly occurred. He quickly withdrew his spiritual consciousness, only to realize that his heart was beating wildly. Is this the demon moon? It's so weird. What kind of existence is this Xianxia realm? At this time, in Huaydan Valley, those nascent soul stagers who stayed here were all silent, and their eyes were all focused on Feng Anhe's face. The secret realm of the Book of Heaven is over. The originally planned 3 months ended up not being available for 3 days, just like that. A huge beam of light soars into the sky from Lake Baipa, and the 5-color brilliance is fleeting. Master Feng, I think you should know something, right? When asked the same question, the pavilion master couldn't help but feel murderous. Because it ended in such a short period of time, it already showed that the Book of Heaven was taken away. But who took it? No one knows. Since the beginning of records, no one has ever obtained the heavenly book in the secret realm of the heavenly book. I have no idea. Feng Anhe shook his head and said, I can only say that it is a destined person. Don't fool us with predestined people, Shen Gongji glared angrily and said, not to mention our Peepa realm, I believe that in the spiritual world, these kinds of skills or treasures are always reserved for the capable. Feng Anhe, tell me everything you know, otherwise I won't be rude. Shen Gongji was furious this time, but no one stopped him. The pavilion master, who seemed to uphold justice, remained silent, which was equivalent to acquiescing to Shen Gongji's words. Mu Si, on the other hand, took a few steps back towards the crowd and distanced himself from Feng Anhe. Suddenly, Feng Anhe's face turned pale. Looking at the countless gazes that seemed to be real, Feng Anhe smiled bitterly, and then said, I can only tell you that the heavenly book was indeed taken away. But I don't know who took it away. Even if you kill me and search my soul, it's still the same. After that, he closed his eyes, looking like he was ready to die, which made the other Yuanying stage people a little at a loss. At present, they don't know whether Feng Anhe is still useful. If so, letting Feng Anhe die is a loss to them. Don't blame Master Feng. At this time, the pavilion master came out to sing the red face again. Their disciples all died in the heavenly book secret realm, it is inevitable that they are a little restless, please forgive me. Pavilion master, I can understand the thoughts of all Taoist friends, because my son also entered it, life and death, unknown. Feng Anhe was reserved on this point. He knew whether Feng Qingyang was dead or not. Of course, as to who took the heavenly book, Feng Anhe really didn't know. Things have developed to this point. Feng Anhe seems to be at a disadvantage, but in fact he has them all in his hands. His appearance just now was just a show. Moreover, it was so real that they all believed what Feng Anhe said. Everyone sighed when they heard the voice, and some even looked up at the surrounding cliffs. The light bloomed, and the Huaydan Valley was as bright as day. This shows that countless people died in the heavenly book secret realm. But how could they know that except for Pei Wei and Leng Rushuan, the rest were killed by Zhu Feng? In this case, let's go back to our respective sects and arrange the attack on Xianxia realm. The time will be advanced, and we will meet in the Fire Dragon sect 1 month later. By then, I hope everyone present can be there. As the pavilion master spoke, he took off, slowly flew over the mountain pass, and floated away. Seeing this, the other sect masters also left one after another. In the end, only Mu Si and Feng Anhe were left in the valley. Old Feng, you really don't know. Mu Si looked straight into Feng Anhe's eyes and said, I really don't know. My beautiful lady, I won't lie to you no matter who I lie to. Feng Anhe did not avoid Mu Si's gaze at all. I believe you, Musi smiled and turned away. It was not until she flew over the mountain pass that the voice came from afar, Feng and he, I still hope you can come to Yishujing. When the voice faded, Musi's figure disappeared. After a while, Feng and he showed a strange smile. Of course I'm going to Yishurealm. In addition to looking for my son, I also want to find that kid. The heavenly book must have been taken away by him. In addition, you may not know, right? I have already passed the news to Yishurealm. Do you really think that Yishurealm is so easy to attack? They have been recuperating for a long time. After saying that, Feng and he turned and walked towards an open space, where was the pit where the Skyfire dragon rushed out. After standing at the edge of the cave for a long time, he jumped into it. Soon, he went straight to the bottom of the cave. Who would have thought that there was a huge human-shaped statue here? Seeing that, Feng and he took off again, floating on the position of the statue's head, and put his hand on the center of his eyebrows. After 1 month, the action in Peeper Realm officially begins. But you need to pay attention, our son is very likely to be in Yusha Realm. As for where he is, it depends on you to find him. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzwan Xianxia. Chapter 656. Qingyang has also entered the secret realm of the Book of Heaven. And you have violated the ancestral precepts. When Feng and he took his hand back, the statue made an indistinguishable sound. The voice was extremely melodious, as if it came from outside. But you can hear the complaint in it. What can I do? I'm helpless too. After Feng and he smiled bitterly, he said, we encountered an accident this time. I can't explain it in a few words. However, Qingyang has a trace of my soul mark on his body, so I can confirm that he is alive. According to the ancestral teachings, if someone in the secret realm of the Book of Heaven is if the heavenly book is found, then everyone will be transported to the Yisha realm. So, Qingyang must have gone to your side. It just so happens that this kid has always blamed me, saying that he has never seen you. I am a witch in the Yisha realm. It was extremely difficult to give birth to him in Huayden Valley at that time. The statue also said resentfully, but having said that, who took away the Book of Heaven this time? I don't know, so besides finding Qingyang, you'd better see if you can meet that person. In addition, I also met an interesting boy. I put the heavenly painting scroll on him, and this you should be able to find the treasure that originally belonged to your demon seal sect, right? Painting heavenly scrolls. And what's your plan? There was a hint of sullenness in his voice. Then, Feng and he said helplessly, Qingyang was injured at that time, so I could only promise him some benefits, so that boy was willing to take people to Yaoang Valley to save Qingyang. But this boy's skills are very strange. He can use the method of forming pills to realm, kill the nascent soul stage. Is this happening? And don't lie to me. Feng and he laughed a few times and said, how could I lie to you? Humph, the statue snorted coldly and said, back then, you said you could draw a painting comparable to that of me in the heavenly scroll, so you tricked me into going to Huayden Valley. Suddenly, Feng and he felt embarrassed, but remembering the past, a smile appeared on his face involuntarily. By the way, that boy is strong, but he is different from other monks in the Peeper realm. Originally, I planned to follow him to the spirit world, so don't hurt him. Oh? Can he go to the spirit world? Didn't you say that he is only in the elixir formation stage? Yes, he is in the pill forming stage, but he can break the void spirit eye technique. 100 years ago, the entire Lin family, the guide for our passage, was wiped out. This led to the fact that no one in our Peeper realm can go to the spirit world. It's not easy. I found a survivor of the Lin family who is extremely capable and talented, so I naturally need to show my favor. And after you go to the spirit world, don't go to the outer world, okay? Feng Anhe frowned and said, if I don't go to Tianweishan, then where will I go? I don't know anything about the spiritual world except Tianweishan. Go to the 9 Netherlands and wait for me for 10 years. This. Feng Anhe. Seeing Feng Anhe's hesitation, the statue couldn't help but shouted, I almost died for you several times, but you are not willing to let you go to the 9 Netherlands and wait for 10 years. Madam, don't be angry, don't be angry. Feng Anhe was a little at a loss and said quickly, I have to go to Tianweitian to find my ancestors and revive them, and then find a way to get to Juyu land. That's more or less the same, the statue said softly, however, you must not go through the central continent of the spiritual world. That is the territory of the 5 Elements sect. I know, the ancestral teachings say that it is better to offend the non-human race in the spiritual world than to offend the 5 Elements sect. Feng Anhe nodded repeatedly. Okay, after talking to you so much, my demon soul power is almost exhausted. Next, not only the Demon Seal sect will be busy, but the Demon Alliance should also respond. Madam, you have not recovered from your old wounds, so remember not to rush to the front line. I will wait for you in the 9 Netherlands for 10 years. I trust you. The statue's voice faded until it disappeared, and Feng Anhe left the bottom of the cave with some reluctance. Next, he has nothing to do but stay in Huaytan Valley and wait for good news. At this time, Zuyun followed the 2 demon cultivators and finally walked out of the Demon Moon Forest. There were no surprises along the way. Although Zuyun knew that the 2 men were alert, the wood escape technique was mysterious and powerless. In addition, Zuyun had merged with the wood spirit bead, and his aura was purer. These 2 demon cultivators were only in the late stage of forming pills. Under such conditions, how could they possibly find Zuyun who was at a similar level? Don't look, the next step is the plane. If anyone really follows, they won't be able to escape our spiritual awareness. When the female cultivator saw that her companion was not leaving, she urged him. Don't be anxious. Once you leave the Demon Moon Forest, there won't be any danger. The male cultivator turned his head, glanced meaningfully, and said, if it is a monster, we just happen to capture it and use it as a mount. There is still more than 1,000 miles to go back to the sect. If we hadn't heard Lord Feng Mo say that the matter was urgent, there would be no need for us to go through this monster. A shortcut to Yuelin. But there are rumors in the sect that Lord Feng Demon had an affair with a certain sect master in the Peepa realm, and it is said that he even gave birth to a son. The female cultivator blinked and asked, wanting to question whether the news was true. Be careful. The male cultivator immediately stared at him and said, it's not our turn to discuss what happened to Lord Wind Demon. No matter how downcast she is still the daughter of the sect leader. Don't look at her now guarding the border between the 2 realms, as if she was sent to forgive. But in the end, his identity is beyond our comparison. I understand, the female cultivator seemed to feel aggrieved. It was obvious that she simply couldn't accept the blending of good and evil. Okay, stop talking, let's pretend to walk for a while and see if we can lure out the stalking thing. Although the 2 lowered their voices, they had no idea that Zuyun was actually hiding in an ancient tree nearest to them, and Zuyun could hear clearly. He couldn't help frowning and thinking, did the news come from Peepa realm? So, who could it be? In addition, did these nascent souls form a spontaneous alliance, or was someone taking the lead? A spontaneous alliance would be vulnerable to him in his opinion. But someone can take the lead. Who can guarantee whether the nascent souls being led will hide their selfish intentions? No matter which way he thought about it, Zuyun felt that the Peepa realm was probably full of misfortunes. Thinking about it, they came prepared, but they had no idea that every move they made would be controlled by the demon cultivators in the Yasha realm within a month. By the way, there is also Tingfeng Mojun. Just hearing this title is definitely unusual. Not to mention, Zuyun also heard the identity of this demon lord. The daughter of a sect leader. It's really troublesome. I can't control this matter. I still have to find a way back. No matter it's back to Peeper realm or any other realm, I still have to go back to Yunzhou to find Antang and take him with me, find that so-called expert and cure Antang's eyes. Zuyun watched the two demon cultivators go away, then returned and entered the demon moon forest. The Peeper realm has the nascent soul stage, and the Yasha realm will naturally have it too. This level of fighting. No, it should be said that it was a life and death fight, and he couldn't get involved at all. Zuyun almost knew his position. Just go southeast. The magic moon has set in the west, and the scarlet moonlight shines through the gaps above the tree crowns, allowing Zuyun to identify the direction. In order to avoid making too much noise, Zuyun chose to use the golden escape technique this time and turned into a metal spirit body. Compared with the wooden escape technique, the golden escape Jew is more maneuverable and can fly close to the ground. Not only is it fast, but it does not move at all. Until the sky lightened up slightly, he had already flown to the edge of the demon moon forest. It's not as dangerous as those two demon cultivators said. I haven't encountered anything. Zuyun curled his lips and said secretly in his heart. As everyone knows, it was his transformation into a metal spirit body, completely devoid of human aura, that allowed him to avoid many hidden dangers. Just after flying out of the demon moon forest, Zuyun suddenly realized something was wrong. His shadow was actually surrounded by a white moonlight. He turned his head sharply and looked. The demon moon, which was hanging to the west and was about to be blocked by the ancient trees, was actually emitting bright white light. Is this the magic moon? He secretly wondered. But then I thought about it, since I had already planned to leave, it was useless no matter how much I knew. Thinking of this, he began to take stock of the situation in front of him. There is also spiritual power in the air, but it is mixed with some vague magic power. Zuyun found these magic powers very interesting as they traveled in the world and were in harmony with the spiritual power. After standing quietly for a moment, the eastern sun suddenly jumped over the horizon, and the sky was dyed with red clouds. The soft sunlight shone on Zuyun's face, while mist rose from the demon moon forest behind him. It's like a fairyland, so beautiful, completely different from the weird and eerie feeling at night. If I hadn't experienced the scene personally, I would have thought that the Yasha realm was like what was written in the book, with demon cultivators everywhere and monsters everywhere. Zuyun shook his head and smiled, and said helplessly to himself, it seems that in the world of cultivating immortals, not only can people not believe too much, but they can't even believe a word of what is said in the book. He didn't know that at this moment, a figure came in the glow of sunlight. Before Zuyun could come back to his senses, the figure had already landed in front of Zuyun. Demon Cultivator. Nascent Soul Stage. Suddenly, Zuyun was horrified. He used the thunder escape technique without hesitation and retreated towards the demon moon forest. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 657. Little guy, you can't escape. As soon as Zuyun's body appeared in the demon moon forest, a kind voice sounded in Zuyun's ears. But at this time, how could Zuyun control his goodwill? In the world of immortality, the most unbelievable thing is kindness. He does a good job of trapping people's goodness in the immortal path of cultivation. What shocked him even more was that every time he used the thunder escape technique and his body flashed out, the sound would ring in his ears. It seemed like this nascent soul female cultivator could lock his position at any time. In this way, Zuyun is almost as good as teleportation in the infant stage, and the method he relies on to survive and escape is equivalent to losing its effectiveness. Fortunately, when he chose to return to the Demon Moon Forest, he was fully prepared. Seeing the female cultivator using teleportation to pursue her, Zuyun saw the right opportunity and immediately used the wood escape technique to escape into an ancient tree in front of him. At the same time, he did not dare to show off his anger, for fear that the female cultivator would discover him. Sure enough, the female cultivator teleported to where Zuyun was standing before. After letting out a light sigh, she actually sniffed her nose. And Zuyun also saw clearly the appearance of this female cultivator at this moment. Turns out, she looks like a young woman. In the world of cultivating immortals, he has only seen two kinds of female cultivators. One is a beautiful girl, the other is an old woman. But he had never seen a face that looked like that of a young lady from a wealthy family in the mortal world. What a boy, this wood type escape technique almost deceived me. Suddenly, the female cultivator reached out and gently patted the ancient tree where Zuyun was hiding. Zuyun was completely dumbfounded. Why is it still being discovered? Come out quickly. If I wanted to kill you, I would have killed you long ago. I'm looking for you for something. The female cultivator said with a chuckle. Zuyun's thoughts were racing, thinking that what this female cultivator said did make sense. Not to mention being chased all the way, just now that he knew his location, he didn't even let go of any pressure. Perhaps. Is she really looking for me? Senior, don't blame me. Thinking of this, Zuyun secretly prepared the Ice Tornado Talisman. If something unusual happened, he would have no choice but to fight. Little guy, do you just not believe me? After all, I am also the demon lord of the Demon Seal sect. I am in the nascent soul stage, but I don't bother to kill you in the core formation stage. Although I know that you have the means to kill the nascent soul. The female cultivator smiled half-heartedly, looking at Zuyun who had just emerged from the tree. Senior, who are you? Zuyun felt that his whole person had been seen through, and he could only forcefully suppress the panic in his heart. I am Nangong Tingfeng of the Demon Seal sect. Monks in the Yusha realm usually call me Tingfeng Demon Lord. As soon as these words came out, Zuyun was shocked. Senior, I'm just passing by here and have no intention of disturbing Senior. After coming to Yusha realm, the first title he heard was Tingfeng Demon Lord. This Demon Lord can know the news about Peepa realm. I know you have no intention of disturbing me, and I'm not trying to cause trouble for you by chasing you. Nangong Tingfeng said with a smile, his eyes slightly narrowed, and a few fine lines appeared in the corners of his eyes. Completely different from all the female cultivators Zuyun has seen. What about Senior? Moyo Forest is not a place for talking. You should follow me to the station for a chat first. But, little guy, don't think about running away again, otherwise, I will have no choice but to tie you up. Nangong Tingfeng seemed to have a girlish heart, even warning Zuyun with a smile. With a wave of her hand, Zuyun flew up. At this time, the Demon Moon Forest seems to have lost the restrictions that cannot be set too high at night. Nangong Tingfeng took Zuyun into the sky and rushed out of the tree crown. The glare of the sun made it impossible for Zuyun to see clearly what was going on under his feet. Of course, he didn't dare to use his spiritual sense to avoid misunderstanding Nangong Tingfeng. Feeling the sound of wind in his ears, Zuyun was suddenly startled. The sound of the wind seems to be a little different. Is this because someone is flying in the void with him? Just as he was feeling the power of the wind, Nangong Tingfeng had already brought him to a small courtyard. The courtyard is not big, but it has small bridges and flowing water. At this time, in front of him was a small pavilion. Little guy, this is my station here. Sit over here and look over there. Nangong Tingfeng pointed to the innermost seat. Zuyun couldn't even think of resisting and sat directly inside. Only then did I realize that the pavilion was actually built on a bottomless cliff. Looking around, there is a sea of clouds, and there is no scene under the clouds at all. This is. Zuyun didn't know why. If you jump down from here, you will reach the Peeper realm. Nangong Tingfeng smiled lightly. Over there, is the Peeper realm. Zuyun was surprised for a while. Is it so convenient to return to Peeper realm? Do you think it's very simple? Nangong Tingfeng smiled and said, it seems very simple, but there is a barrier between the Peeper realm and the Yasha realm. However, this barrier is only effective for the nascent soul stage. For someone like you who is in the Danja stage, it is you can come and go as you like. Senior, do you mean that I can go to Peeper realm? Zuyun felt excited. Boy, you just came from Peeper realm and you want to go back. Why, Yasha realm, are so disliked by you. After hearing this, Zuyun remembered that Nangong Tingfeng seemed to have said that he was just here to find him. Senior, please speak clearly. Thinking of this, Zuyun immediately stood up and was extremely respectful. You boy, the escape technique you just performed that seemed to be at the nascent soul stage really impressed me. In addition, you also prepared a few talismans. They look simple. You can kill me, right? It's not surprising that Thunder Escape Jew was seen. But the Ice Tornado Talisman. How could it be known? Surprised, but Zuyun couldn't help but feel completely relieved. Even though all his defensive methods were known, Nangong Tingfeng remained unmoved. Come to think of it, he really didn't want to kill me. Senior, I have no choice but to do this, please forgive me. Zuyun bowed again. Okay. There is no need to be cautious. I have been entrusted by Feng and he to protect you. Old Feng, Senior. This time, Zuyun was really shocked. No matter how he thought about it, he could never imagine that it would be Old Man Feng. So, if the previous conversation between the two demon cultivators is true, is Feng Qingyang the son of Nangong Tingfeng and Feng and he? Suddenly, Zuyun took a deep breath in his heart. This is a bit too bloody, right? Seeing Nangong Tingfeng, gentle, dignified and beautiful, he could never imagine what a sloppy old man like Feng and he would look like standing next to Nangong Tingfeng. Yes, that's him. Nangong Tingfeng nodded slightly and said, do you know why I was able to find you? What marks did Senior Feng leave on me? Zuyun knew that the nascent soul stage would have such abilities, and he could do so without being able to discover them himself. Nangong Tingfeng smiled and said, you kid, I don't know if you are too greedy. You really dare to accept the scroll that Feng and he gave you. Aren't you afraid of burning your hands? Is it a scroll painting? Zuyun suddenly understood and remembered the time when he was hiding in the ancient tree. Nangong Tingfeng took a few sniffs. Looking back at this action now, it actually seemed a bit windy and elegant. It seemed that Feng Qingyang was undoubtedly her biological son. I have to say that these powerful monks are so powerful that they can even pass on their demeanor. While marveling, Zuyun took out the scroll with some reluctance. Originally, he planned to give the scroll to Meng Wei for self-defense. You should keep it, you deserve this. I am only looking for you through the aura of the heavenly painting scroll, not to get back the heavenly painting scroll. Although, this is one of the treasures of my demon seal sect. Nangong Tingfeng smiled and said, boy, what are your plans after returning to Peeper realm? Senior, this mortal world is too big. I want to go around and have a look. Zuyun naturally did not dare to directly say that he wanted to return to Yunzhou. Little guy, you are a little dishonest. Nangong Tingfeng directly exposed Zuyun's lies and said, do you know why I don't embarrass you? Zuyun frowned and heard the hidden meaning behind the words. It's not that Nangong Tingfeng doesn't want to take action, but there is a place for you to use it. Zuyun smiled helplessly and said, Senior, please don't play riddles with me. How can I guess it? That's what I said. Nangong Tingfeng chuckled and said, don't panic. It's just that I want you to take Feng and he to the spirit world. Hearing this, Zuyun subconsciously wanted to refuse. But just as he was about to speak, the scroll in his hand suddenly came out. Then, it circled back and entangled him in a circle. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 658. In the blink of an eye, Zuyun was tightly wrapped in the heavenly painting scroll, unable to move. "Senior, what are you doing?" Zuyun screamed in horror. He tried to struggle away, but he was unable to resist at all. Almost like the shuttle, he suddenly lost control. "It's nothing." Nangong Tingfeng still had a smile on his face and said, "There are many wonderful uses for painting heavenly scrolls, and I can teach them to you. It's just that, Senior, you are the one who will take Feng and he to the spirit world." After the words fell, the Huatian scroll suddenly let go again, rolled up into a scroll again and fell back into Zuyun's hands, and Zuyun once again felt the connection with the Huatian scroll. Now, he understood what Nangong Tingfeng meant. A smile hidden in a knife? This is clearly a threat. Nangong Tingfeng can take back control of Hua Tianwan at any time and turn against Zuyun. "Senior, I don't even know when I will be able to go to the spiritual world." Zuyun was somewhat resistant in his heart, but when the words came to his lips, he was still a little resigned. "You can go when you reach the nascent soul stage. I believe that you have the ability to take Feng and he through the spirit world passage easily. To be honest, this scroll of painting was originally one of my magical weapons. But Feng and he, since I gave it to you, I will naturally not ask you to get it back." Nangong Tingfeng's tone was still soft. Zuyun understood completely now. He can even think of deeper things, but there are some things he can't ask. Fortunately, Nangong Tingfeng's requirements are not high, and they only need to be after Zuyun breaks through to nascent soul. Thinking about it, I can definitely choose to complete the next series of things before choosing to concentrate on cultivation. As for the matter between Yusha Realm and Peepa Realm, he has no ability to participate in it. In this case, Zuyun agreed. Nangong Tingfeng was very satisfied and pointed at Zuyun's brow. "Don't hide, little one. I will teach you all the techniques of painting the heaven scroll. After you go to the spirit world, this heaven painting scroll may be able to help you a lot." Countless obscure formulas flashed through Zuyun's mind, all of which were methods for drawing heavenly scrolls. After only a moment, Zuyun had already mastered it and had a deeper understanding of painting heaven scrolls. But he was not too happy. No one would be happy when faced with such a situation. It was as if he was being monitored by Nangong Tingfeng at all times. "Okay, you can go back to Peepa Realm, I still have things to do." Nangong Tingfeng suddenly waved his hand, and Zuyun was picked up by a strong wind and fell straight from the pavilion to the cliff. It wasn't until Zuyun disappeared from sight that Nangong Tingfeng turned around, his face extremely solemn. "This kid has already appeared, but what about my son? Why can't I feel it? I don't know how deep the cliff is, Zuyun keeps falling, but he can't use any spiritual power." It wasn't until the speed of his fall suddenly slowed down and the whistling in his ears became much lighter that he finally took a breath and tried to control the chaos force in his body so that he could land smoothly. Finally, after about another stick of incense, he came out of the fog and stepped on solid ground. Feeling the familiar atmosphere around him, he knew that he was safely back in the Peepa realm. Within a month, all those in the nascent soul stage will come back. It seems that I have to leave quickly during this time to avoid catching up with those in the nascent soul stage. Zuyun's heart moved, and he rose into the sky and flew towards the south. In his mind, he has a rough map of the mortal world. As long as you go all the way south, you can definitely reach Shiwanda Mountain. He just planned to cross the Shiwanda Mountain and return to the Yao Kingdom. After arriving in Chuzhu, he had more choices. Regardless of whether they were diverting from Yazhu to Yunzhou, or going around the sea from Chenan. This is the extreme west of Peepa realm and slightly north. It is still more than 10,000 miles away from the fire dragon sect, let alone the 100,000 mountains. But in order to avoid getting into trouble, Zuyun kept flying and flew all the way. In my ears, there was always the sound of howling wind. More than half a month had passed until he finally saw the peaks of Shiwanda Mountain, and he breathed a long sigh of relief. This can be regarded as bypassing the fire dragon section. As long as I enter the 100,000 mountains, I can transform into a metal spirit body. Who can still discover my existence? Zuyun had a smile on his face, but just as he rushed into the 100,000 mountains, a huge demonic force locked on him instantly. However, this demonic power has a vaguely familiar smell. Human boy, it's you. Compared to the breath, the voice is more familiar. Looking at the handsome male cultivator in front of him, Zuyun quickly bowed his hands and said, I have seen the Fox Demon King. At this time, the Fox Demon King has successfully broken through to the realm of the Demon King. He has transformed into a human form, and the fox tail will no longer appear behind him. Since I am destined to be with you, I will let you enter the Shiwan mountain. If any of my people block you, take this token. After saying that, the Fox Demon King flicked his hand, and a ray of silver light rushed towards Zuyun. But as soon as he reached him, the silver light receded, his speed also dropped sharply, and it turned into a silver fox hair and landed on Zuyun's palm. Middle. Zuyun was stunned for a moment, then smiled and said, Senior Demon King, how is Qiuqi? You. Hearing Zuyun's words, the Fox Demon King became more angry and immediately asked, what do you mean by this? Not long after he broke through the Demon King realm, he sent many people to the Peeper realm to find out the news, but they never found out about Qiuqi. The last news points to the pet pavilion. But it seemed like overnight, all the pet pavilions were closed, and there was no way to investigate. Not only that, he also discovered that the entire Peeper realm revealed a chilling meaning. But who would have thought that Zuyun would ask about his daughter first? Senior Demon King, I once met Qiuqi by chance at an auction in a pet pavilion in the Peeper realm, and spent some spiritual stones to capture her. Later, I found an opportunity and invited a senior from the nascent soul stage to, when passing by this place, sent her back to Demon Fox Mountain. Did Senior Demon King not meet her? Zuyun could of course tell from the Fox Demon King's rhetorical questions that the Fox Demon King had not met Qiuqi and was filled with doubts. Tang Liwen wouldn't murder that little fox, would she? Even if Tang Liwen deceived me with deep intentions, what use does Qiuqi have? We are no longer in Demon Fox Mountain. The Fox Demon King said coldly, Boy, are your words true? Senior, the boy and Qiuqi have lived together and died together. They met in the Peeper realm, so they are destined to meet each other. He said that he saved her, not to claim credit from the senior, but to really treat Qiuqi as a friend. The boy dare not do that. A lie. Qiuqi was sent by himself, but now he is missing. The solution he can think of is to return to Yunzhou as soon as possible and ask Tang Liwen. I'm sorry you don't dare to lie to me, the Fox Demon King chose to believe Zuyun. After all, Zuyun had indeed saved Qiuqi several times, otherwise he would not have let him go again and again. But, where did his daughter go? At this time, Zuyun also remembered the two demon foxes in his immortal mansion, and with a thought, he directly summoned the two demon foxes. Senior Demon King, before Qiuqi left, the boy promised him that as long as he saw the Demon Fox clan in the Peeper realm, he would do his best to save them. These two were saved by the boy and then placed in the beast control space. Please forgive me, Senior, the boy's beast control space is a bit strange, and you can only enter it if you let them recognize you. Zuyun said a little cautiously, he was still somewhat afraid that the Fox Demon King would misunderstand him. Great, King. Qiu Wangzai and the other fox girl both reached out and wiped their eyes. The Fox Demon King could transform into a human before. Although he had a fox tail, his human appearance would not change. The two fox girls would naturally recognize him. You have suffered. The two demon foxes were obviously not strong enough, but they were forced into human form by the transformation pill. The fox demon king felt sad in his heart and stepped forward to embrace the two women in his arms. I am ashamed to be a king and have made you suffer. The fox demon king ignored Zuyun, and Zuyun also wisely stepped aside. Your Majesty, I will return to my clan without shame. Please allow me to follow this human clan. Qiu Wangzai had already burst into tears, wiped his eyes and said with sobs. After hearing this, the Fox King suddenly raised his head and looked at Zuyun. The sadness just now had disappeared. Zuyun waved his hands in panic. Senior, I don't dare. Snored. The Fox Demon King snorted coldly, turned to look at the two girls in his arms, and said softly, this kid is not bad. Even you are willing to follow her, which means that she is a friend of our Fox clan. However, our Fox clan has suffered heavy losses. This matter talk about it later. Your Majesty. The two Fox girls said in unison, planning to say something more to try to convince the Fox King, but they suddenly fainted. Zuyun didn't know why, but he didn't dare to ask. The Fox King looked at Zuyun again and said, Boy, my Fox clan owes you a debt of gratitude. However, I still want to find a girl, so I will go back to Demon Fox Mountain for the time being. I can't repay this debt. You may need it in the future. Wherever I am concerned, I will put the spiritual power into the fox hair I just gave you and send a message to me. As long as I am in this mortal world, I will arrive as soon as possible. Zuyun was stunned for a moment, thinking that the fox fur could have such wonderful uses. The figure of the Fox Demon King had already jumped into the forest. It's time for me to go too. Zuyun scratched his head and immediately used the golden escape technique, turning himself into a metal spirit body and running all the way south along the outside of the mountain. Just after walking for more than an hour, I heard silver light passing by in the sky, causing a sound of piercing the sky. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 659. This is, Silver Sword Sect. Zuyun thought for a while and guessed something. Judging from the direction of these people's movements, it seems they are going to Peeper Realm. In today's Peeper Realm, these people must have been sent to die in the past, right? Zuyun was not going to pay attention to it, but he suddenly remembered that Daegu had told him that Luo Yanran had been in the Silver Sword sect at that time, and he still existed in the form of a golden elixir. He didn't know what happened now. As Mengui's master, he would also have to pass by the Silver Sword sect at this time. If he didn't go and take a look, he would always feel a little regretful in his heart. Thinking of this, Zuyun immediately returned to his human form and planned to chase after him to take a look. Although these people are fast, they are not enough for Zuyun. Not only in terms of speed, but also in terms of strength. When Zuyun returns to the Yao realm, there may be no one left who can hurt him. In other words, if he wanted to, he could be the number one person in the Yao realm. With just a few thunder escape techniques, Zuyun's figure suddenly appeared among the silver light. Who's blocking the way? With a loud shout, more than a dozen female cultivators in the alchemy stage suddenly stopped and looked at Zuyun warily. Fairies, I would like to inquire about someone from your sect. Zuyun said lightly that he didn't have any good impressions of the Silver Sword section after all. The big dog's hand was cut off by a female cultivator of the Silver Sword sect. If they hadn't wanted to inquire about Luo Yanran, these female cultivators had no grudge against him. Zuyun would have taken action directly and collected some interest for the big dog. No one can hurt his brother without paying the price. Are you, Zuyun? At this time, Behind the crowd, a strange female cultivator suddenly spoke timidly. Zuyun heard the reputation, but when he was surprised, he suddenly called out, "Palace Master Luo. You are really Zuyun." A female cultivator who looked no more than 20 years old came out of the crowd with a face full of surprise and flew to Zuyun. Feeling the strong aura from his body, Luo Yanran said excitedly, "Good boy, you are in the late stage of pill formation. We happen to be short of manpower, why don't you come with me?" Zuyun frowned. The person in front of him was undoubtedly Luo Yanran. Being both reincarnated by the Golden Core, he had no idea about Sun Qiniang, but looking at Luo Yanran, he always felt that it was inappropriate to take someone's body for his own use. "Palace Master Luo, are you going to Peeper Realm?" Zuyun wanted to remind them not to go, but he never thought that a female cultivator suddenly flashed in front of Zuyun and said coldly, "Fellow Taoist, I am working in the Silver Sword section, don't ask too many questions. The more you know, the more likely you are to die the faster. Do you think that you can act recklessly in front of us in the later stage of pill formation?" Zuyun raised his eyebrows slightly, and was very dissatisfied with the female cultivator's attitude, and responded lightly, "It's not your turn to dictate what I do. If Palace Master Luo hadn't had some connection with me, you Silver, how can people like Jianzong be safe in these places?" As soon as these words came out, the whole place was in an uproar. Not only was the female sword cultivator in front of her who was at the peak of the late stage of pill formation, the other female cultivators even started to curse angrily, using all kinds of vicious words that were unbearable to hear. Luo Yanran hurriedly said loudly, "Everyone, don't worry about it. These are my disciples' good friends, and they are all our own. Maybe he is practicing fast and is a little arrogant." Luo Yanran, at this time, the female cultivator turned her head and yelled at Luo Yanran, "You have no right to speak here. If it weren't for the friendship with you back then, how would the sect leader give this? You have lived a whole new life with only one body. Now you are helping outsiders, don't want to live anymore." These words almost slapped Luo Yanran hard on the face, distorting her expression. "What did you say? What are you talking about? Do you still need me to say it? Your Yaluo sect has been destroyed. What else can you use? If you hadn't seen that you could quickly start practicing from the pill formation stage, do you think I would be willing to let you use that body? It turns out that this is the sect leader?" Zuyun sneered in his heart, "These female cultivators are so ruthless, they are really not sloppy at all. Zuyun, let's go." Luo Yanran's expression darkened, just because this good friend from back then was so angry. But she was not strong enough to protect Zuyun, so she could only urge him to leave as soon as possible to save her life. "Luo Yanran, how can someone let go if the sect leader doesn't want to let go?" There was a burst of laughter from the side. Unexpectedly, as soon as she finished speaking, her head flew up out of thin air. Blood splattered all over the faces of the surrounding female cultivators. At this time, a group of female cultivators saw Zuyun disappear from the place, and this companion's head was chopped off by Zuyun. I saw Zuyun, stretched out two fingers, crossed the blade of the chaos sword, and faintly said two words, "Really? Kill him." The sect leader reacted very quickly and immediately gave the order. All the female cultivators, as if in a state of enlightenment, drew out their swords and stabbed Zuyun. Luo Yanran stared at the scene blankly. She couldn't believe that this would happen when she saw Zuyunzi again. She hasn't had time to entrust Mengwei to Zuyun. And she couldn't believe it, a sword light came from behind her. They were the masters of the Silver Sword sect who were like sisters back then. "Luo Yanran, you deserve to die too." With a roar full of anger, the sword light almost stabbed Luo Yanran's back. Luo Yanran, who had recultivated her whole life, even though she had recultivated to the late stage of pill formation, she was not a sword cultivator at all. The strength can be said to be the lowest among all the people. But I never thought. Zhu Yun's figure suddenly appeared. The next moment, there was a cracking sound. The sword that attacked was actually broken directly. The clan leader who attacked by surprise vomited blood and fell straight to the ground. Clan leader. The female cultivators whose attacks missed discovered the miserable state of the clan leader and exclaimed. The natal magic sword was broken, and the clan leader must be seriously injured. But how did this male cultivator escape from their encirclement? Zhu Yun. Luo Yanran turned his head and saw Zhu Yun with a smile, and his thoughts stopped completely. Is this still the Zhu Yun he knew in the secret realm back then? It's only a few years have passed. Lord Luo, I shouldn't mind your business. But I think if Wei were here, he would definitely help you vent your anger. When will the leader of the Yaluo sect stand this kind of arrogance? Zhu Yun smiled and didn't give Luo Yanran a chance to speak. The next moment, he stabbed the chaos sword. A female cultivator didn't have time to react before the chaos sword pierced through her lower abdomen. The female cultivator's eyes bulged slightly, and the severe pain from her lower abdomen made her unable to believe the facts in front of her. This sword. How could it be so fast? Even Wang Jianshan couldn't do this, right? How could she know how terrifying Zhu Yun's strength was? The Wuji sword art can break the weaknesses of all methods, not to mention these female cultivators, who are only at the same level as Zhu Yun. Zhu Yun drew back the chaos sword and swung it backhand. In an instant, the black sword turned into a purple sword. The lightning flashed. In this move, Zhu Yun used the lightning spirit. Zi La. Zi La. Zi La. A flash of lightning, like a spirit snake coming out of a hole, suddenly jumped out from the chaos sword, and the thick snake body swept down several female cultivators. Immediately, these people were paralyzed and could no longer use their spiritual power, and they fell from the air. Run. Another female cultivator saw this and made a quick decision to escape. Zhu Yun smiled slightly and stabbed the tip of the sword into the air. Luo Yanran saw a flash of golden light, and the moment it disappeared, the female cultivator had been cut into two pieces by the golden light. Sword chi was released. Run in different directions. There were still several female cultivators left, and they had no courage to deal with it, so they fled in all directions. No one I want to leave can leave safely. Zhu Yun snorted coldly, and the temperature around him dropped sharply. Ice and snow. At this moment, the chaos sword once again turned into an ice blue long sword. As he shouted, cold air surged from the sword and spread in all directions. Wherever the ice power reached, as long as a female cultivator was touched, someone would immediately turn into an ice sculpture and fall straight to the ground. With only 3 moves, Zhu Yun caught all these female cultivators in one fell swoop. Luo Yanran was completely dumbfounded. If Zhu Yun hadn't talked to her, she didn't know how long she would stay. Palace Master Luo, your sister doesn't recognize you as a sister. I guess you have a lot to say to her, right? Zhu Yun's words made Luo Yanran smile bitterly. Alas, alas, alas. Luo Yanran sighed 3 times, drew out the long sword behind him, and then fell directly in front of the seriously injured Silver Sword sect leader. Nothing to say, let it go. Luo Yanran was a character after all, and he stabbed the sword into the opponent's lower abdomen neatly. Life was cut off instantly. She also raised her head, her eyes flickered, and said to Zhu Yun, I'll take you to a good place. Good place. Zhu Yun was a little confused. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 660. That's right, it's a good place. If you go there, I can show you the real Yaluo sect. As he spoke, Luo Yanran had a pious and proud look on his face. But Zhu Yun couldn't help but feel his heart skip a beat. The 2 words real represent. Are you talking about Yasha realm? Zuyun blurted out immediately. Huh. Luo Yanran was stunned immediately, looked Zuyun up and down, and said in surprise, Zuyun, you can actually guess that it is Yasharelm. Zuyun also smiled bitterly. He just came back from there. Combined with some news that Lord Feng Mo told him, it was not difficult to guess Luo Yanran's purpose. Palace Master Luo, I'm afraid something is going to happen in Yasharelm. If you can't go, it's better not to go. No, there is an order from the Holy Section as the branch of the Yaluo Holy Sect stationed in the Ya realm, I must return to the sect. Luo Yanran shook her head and rejected Zuyun, and these words also explained in disguise that the Yaluo sect of Ya realm actually originated from Yasha realm. Moreover, it can be heard even more clearly that Luo Yanran is people from the Yasha realm. So what about Mengwei? As if seeing the doubts in Zuyun's heart, Luo Yanran said, but don't worry, Wei doesn't need to go there, although I don't know where she is yet. Palace Master Luo, I suggest. Before Zuyun finished speaking, he was interrupted by Luo Yanran, Zuyun, I have made up my mind. Not only am I going to go this time, but even some demonic cultivators from the Magic Wheel sect who are hiding in the Juhao Mountains are also going there. At this time, Zuyun knew that he could not persuade Luo Yanran at all. He sighed slightly and said, Palace Master Luo, there is no way I can go with you. Are you sure you don't want to go there? Listen to me, it's the right time for Yasharelm to hire people, and you are really good. If you follow me to the Holy Sect, you will make a lot of achievements. Don't waste this good opportunity. As Luo Yanran spoke, she paid attention to Zuyun's reaction. Seeing that he was not moved at all, she thought that she had revealed more important information. Yaluo Holy Sect is also one of the great demon sects in the Yasha realm. If you join it, you will definitely be reused. Don't you want to break through to the nascent soul stage quickly? It is said that heroes emerge from troubled times. As far as I know, in the Yasha realm, the battle with Peeper realm is about to begin, and based on my understanding of you, Palace Master Luo, I really have important things to attend to, and I don't want to go to Yasha realm. If you want to go, then let's part ways. Zuyun's tone was firm, which made Luo Yanran a little disappointed. She had to say, Zuyun, do you want to go to the spirit world? Why, Palace Master Luo knows how to get to the spirit world. When asked, Zuyun's heart was filled with confusion. Is it possible that the Yasha realm also has a channel to the spiritual world? Of course there are ways, but opening a direct passage to the spirit world is very costly. Unless you make a major contribution, it is absolutely impossible and you can only break out on your own. Luo Yanran's words shocked Zuyun again. Compared with the Peeper realm, there are still differences between the spiritual world passages in the Yasha realm. Perhaps, this difference is due to the fact that they slaughtered the Lin family, the leading clan? But Zuyun Hui would not be tempted like this at all, not to mention that he was telling the truth to Luo Yanran, so he would not agree to it. Palace Master Luo is determined. As far as I know, to go to the spirit world, you have to cultivate to at least the late stage of nascent soul. After passing there, safety can be guaranteed, right? My strength is still too weak, and it is too far away to talk about. Zuyun's refusal again made Luo Yanran a little unbelievable. Facing the temptation of a higher level, Zuyun actually refused again? In fact, she wanted Zuyun to go with her, just because she thought it would be safer if Zuyun took care of her along the way. Witnessing Zuyun's strength with her own eyes made Luo Yanran feel that she could play a relationship card with him, but she didn't expect that Zuyun would not be moved at all. Fortunately, she had no ill intentions towards Zuyun. In desperation, she had no choice but to say, Zuyun, if you have the opportunity to go to Yasha realm and encounter trouble, please repay me with the name of Yaluo Holy Section. No one will dare to mess with you. Zuyun smiled and nodded, and then suddenly said, By the way, Palace Master Lugo, how does the Yalugo Holy Sect compare to the Demon Seal Sect? Demon Seal Sect. Lugo Yanran frowned and said, how do you know about the Demon Seal Sect? The Demon Seal Sect does not have a branch in Yeazhu, most of them are in Bingzhou. Seeing that Zuyun seemed to be interested in such things, she continued, like the Yusha realm, generally powerful demon sects will still subconsciously avoid the Peepa realm and choose to infiltrate from the Ya realm. 18 Ya realms. There are 2 demon sects in almost every state. For example, in Yeazhu, there are our Yalugo sect and Malugo sect, and in Bingzhou, we have the Silver Sword sect and the Moyan section. When Zuyun heard that the Silver Sword sect was also a demon sect, he couldn't help but be a little surprised, and at the same time he was suddenly enlightened. No wonder Lugo Yanran ran to the Silver Sword sect after he only had the golden elixir left. It turns out that the Silver Sword sect is also the same sect. It's not surprising to hear something about the daily lifestyle of the female cultivators of the Silver Sword sect. As for the Demon Flame sect, he was not interested. From the name, it should be the demon sect that plays with fire. By the way, is there a demon sect in Yunzhou? Zuyun had traveled all over Yunzhou, but he had never heard of a demon sect in Yunzhou. Furthermore, I had read in Yunzhou Chronicles that the rupture of Yunzhou's ground veins was caused by the battle between good and evil 3,000 years ago. But some time ago, he thought that some of the information in the book could not be fully trusted. At this time, he also had some doubts about Yunzhou Chronicles. Perhaps the records in those books are just to deceive ordinary monks or mortals. There is no demon sect in Yunzhou because Yunzhou's spiritual power is too meager. Therefore, when the Demon Alliance drew lots to determine the affiliations, the Demon Devouring Sect and the Demon Sea Sect chose the Wild Sea. This news was also revealed when I was deployed to Yao. When I was in the state, the elders of the sect told me the news. Wild Sea? A flash of light suddenly flashed in Zuyun's mind, and he vaguely seemed to have discovered something, but when he thought about it carefully, he had no clue. But thinking that since there is no demon sect in Yunzhou, the Lingjian sect can develop safely for a long time. Thank you Palace Master Lugo for clarifying my doubts. We are going to the Peepa realm. The mountains are high and the road is far away. Palace Master Lugo, be careful all the way. The boy is destined to Palace Master Lugo, so I can only send some elixirs and talismans for Palace Master Lugo to use for self-defense. After all, he was Menghui's master. Although he came from Yusha realm, Zuyun still left some elixirs and 3 ice tornado talismans to Lugo Yanran when they parted. The elixirs were ordinary and were only used to replenish spiritual power. But the talisman, this is comparable to the talisman of the infant stage. This kid. Watching Zuyun leave, Lugo Yanran felt a little moved in her heart and murmured to herself, it's completely different from other monks, it's a pity that I can't come back when I go back to Yusha realm this time. Otherwise, I must hands will be entrusted to him without limit. Lugo Yanran watched Zuyun disappear from sight with her own eyes, feeling a little empty in her heart. Menghui was the disciple she took in Yeazhu and raised him since he was a child. But the last time he left in the secret realm of Purple Langfeng, he had never been seen again. To say that I don't want to, would be a lie. But she had to obey the sect's orders. That's all, the younger generation will have their own blessings. With a boy like Zuyun who cares about emotions, Wei will be fine. Lugo Yanran stuffed the talisman into her arms, then looked at the dozen or so corpses on the ground, unceremoniously put their storage bags into their bags, and then turned and left. Zuyun learned more about the mortal world from Lugo Yanran, and he also thought about the long term. It seems that the battle between Peepa realm and Yusha realm has been going on secretly. However, his level is not enough, and because he has not been in Peepa realm for a long time, he cannot know more information at all. And these words of Lugo Yanran can undoubtedly reveal that Yusha realm may have been preparing to deal with Peepa realm for a long time. As for the reason, unknown. If Peeper Realm hadn't taken the initiative to attack Yasha Realm this time, I'm afraid Yasha Realm wouldn't have recalled the people from Yao Realm. In the 18 states of Yao Realm, plus the Wild Sea area, there are actually 36 demon sects. It seems that Yashujing's plot is not small. Right and wrong, cause and effect, I don't know where it comes from. When will we repay each other's grievances? We are all humans, but they have different cultivation methods. Can't we live in harmony? Zhu Yun couldn't help but sigh, but suddenly thought of Zhu Feng. The Savage Sea, the demon-devouring sect, Moxie, the demon-devouring art. Suddenly, Zhu Yun's flying body stopped. He opened his eyes and finally caught the light in his mind.